You think you know chaos? You think you've seen WWE at its most unhinged? Well, let me tell you something right now. What went down on Raw this Monday wasn't just a brawl. It was a declaration of war, and if you're sitting there thinking this was just another stage scuffle to hype up War Games, then you clearly haven't been paying attention to what's really happening behind the curtain. Because what we witnessed wasn't in the script, and somebody's getting fired over this. I'm dead serious. Before we dive into the carnage that left 3 superstars legitimately injured and 1 medical team scrambling, I need you to drop a comment right now telling me who threw the first real punch. Because trust me, after you see the breakdown, you're going to realize that someone went into business for themselves, and WWE is trying desperately to sweep it under the rug. Let's set the stage. Raw opens, and we've got Roman Reigns standing in that ring with the same cocky smirk he's been wearing since he decided he was the tribal chief of the entire wrestling universe. But here's the thing about Roman right now, he's vulnerable. For the first time in years, Roman Reigns looks like a man who knows his empire is crumbling. The bloodline? Fractured. His dominance? Questioned. And with War Games looming this Saturday, he needed to make a statement. He needed to remind everyone why he's the head of the table. Then Brock Lesnar's music hits. Now pause right here. When was the last time Brock Lesnar showed up on Raw without a contractual obligated paycheck that could fund a small country? Exactly. Brock doesn't just show up anymore. He appears when there's money on the line or when someone has legitimately pissed him off. And judging by the look on his face when he walked down that ramp, someone had done exactly that. The Beast wasn't there for a promo. He was there to hurt people. But wait, because it gets better. Cody Rhodes' music interrupts the stare down. The American Nightmare, fresh off proving he's not just living in his father's shadow but eclipsing it entirely, walks out with that championship legacy weighing on his shoulders. Cody's been on a mission to prove he belongs at the top of this industry, and War Games represents his chance to cement his name alongside the legends. But there's something different about Cody on this night. His usual composed demeanor? Gone. He's ready to fight, and he's not waiting for Saturday. And just when you think this powder keg couldn't get any more explosive, Centimeter Punk's entrance music shatters the arena. The place erupts. Because love him or hate him, Centimeter Punk is the chaos agent that makes everything unpredictable. The man who supposedly came back to WWE to save the business has instead thrown gasoline on every fire he's encountered. Punk walks out with that microphone, and you just know he's about to say something that's going to make corporate executives reach for the delay button. Here's where things went sideways. Who do you think started talking first? Drop your answer in the comments because this detail matters more than you think. Punk grabs the mic and immediately starts running his mouth about how War Games isn't about teams, it's about egos. He's calling out Roman for playing general when he can't even keep his own family in line. He's mocking Lesnar for being a mercenary who only shows up for the biggest checks. And he's questioning whether Cody has the killer instinct to finish what he started. Every word is calculated. Every sentence designed to trigger someone into making a mistake. Roman responds, but here's what the cameras didn't catch, his knuckles were already white from gripping that microphone. WWE production tried to keep the shot wide, but if you watch closely, you can see Roman's jaw clenching in a way that has nothing to do with character work. Something Punk said hit different. Maybe it was the comment about the bloodline being fake family held together by merchandising deals. Maybe it was the suggestion that Roman's entire legacy is manufactured. Whatever it was, the tribal chief was seething. Lesnar, being Lesnar, doesn't waste time with words. He charges Punk, not the work WWE charge where you give your opponent time to prepare. I'm talking about the legitimate shoot double leg takedown that Brock used to use in his UFC days. Punk goes down hard, and you can see the surprise on his face because that's not how this was supposed to go down. Cody tries to separate them, and that's when all hell breaks loose. Roman sees an opportunity and Superman punches Cody from behind. But here's where the conspiracy gets interesting. That punch landed with full force. No pulled contact. No protective positioning. Cody's head snapped back like he just got hit by a truck, and he stumbled into the ropes legitimately dazed. Medical staff would later confirm he suffered a concussion from that shot, but WWE hasn't officially acknowledged it. Why? Because if they admit someone went off script with a legitimate strike, there are legal implications, insurance issues, and a PR nightmare waiting to explode. The locker room empties. Both War Games teams flood the ring, and what ensues is 15 minutes of absolute bedlam. But pay attention to the specific matchups happening simultaneously, because they tell a story. Punk and Lesnar are clearly working stiff with each other. These aren't worked punches, these are strikes with bad intentions. Their history, both real and fabricated, is boiling over in real time. Meanwhile, Roman is targeting Cody with a viciousness that goes beyond storyline. He's not just throwing Cody around for dramatic effect, he's trying to hurt him. The German announce table gets obliterated when Roman drives Cody through it with a spear that had zero protection. Cody's back arched on impact in a way that made every wrestler watching backstage immediately grab their phones to check if he was okay. Quick question for the comments: how many announce tables do you think WWE goes through in a year? I'm genuinely curious about your guesses. But here's the moment that convinced me something went wrong. Referees are trying to separate everyone, and you can clearly hear one of them shouting, "That's enough." Not in character, this is legitimate concern in his voice. WWE's audio team tried to bury it under crowd noise, but if you listen with headphones, it's clear as day. Then you see a producer running down the ramp, not a manager, not a character, a legitimate backstage producer in street clothes frantically waving his arms. The brawl spills into the crowd. Security that's usually positioned for exactly this type of angle looks genuinely confused about what they are supposed to be doing, because in a work brawl, everyone knows their position. Security knows where to stand, how to react, when to intervene. But these security guards are looking at each other like, are we supposed to actually stop this? Seth Rollins appears out of nowhere, and here's where my sources backstage tell me things get really interesting. Seth was not scheduled to be in this segment. He was supposed to have a completely separate storyline running throughout the night. But when things started getting legitimately dangerous, someone made the call to send Seth out there because he's one of the few guys everyone actually respects enough to listen to when he says, "Cool it." Seth gets between Punk and Lesnar, and you can read his lips telling them to take it down. Brock actually backs off for a second, which tells you everything you need to know. When Brock Lesnar stops throwing hands because Seth Rollins asked him to, that means things had escalated beyond the plan. The segment ends with all four main event players standing in different corners of the ringside area, covered in sweat, breathing heavy, and staring daggers at each other. The camera work gets shaky, not that trendy handheld style WWE sometimes uses, but legitimately unstable, like the cameraman is trying to figure out what he's supposed to be filming. Then they cut to commercial 30 seconds earlier than planned. Now here's what WWE doesn't want you to know. During that commercial break, a backstage meeting happened immediately. Triple H, Adam Pearce, and several producers huddled with all four men separately. Tensions were so high they couldn't risk putting them in the same room. Medical checked on Cody, evaluated Punk's shoulder, which apparently took a legit impact during one of Lesnar's suplexes, and someone had to ice down Roman's hand because he legitimately injured his knuckles on that Superman punch. When Raw came back from commercial, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee were noticeably more subdued. Their commentary changed from hyping up the chaos to immediately pivoting to the intensity of war games and emotions running high. That's WWE damage control speak for something went wrong and we're trying to reframe it. So what really happened? Here's my theory, and I want you to tell me if you agree or think I'm completely off base. I believe Centimeter Punk said something during that promo that legitimately triggered Roman Reigns. Maybe it was about his family, maybe it was about his position in the company, maybe it was something we'll never hear. But Roman responded with a shoot punch to Cody, possibly because he couldn't get to Punk directly without making it obvious. That set off Lesnar, who saw an opening to work stiff with Punk because of their legitimate heat. And suddenly, everyone's working at 60% instead of the usual 20%, and things spiraled out of control. The evidence? Watch Roman's body language after that Superman punch. He immediately looks toward the hard camera with an expression that's not his tribal chief character. It's genuine. Oh crap, did I just go too far? And watch Lesnar's reaction when Seth intervenes. The Beast looks almost relieved, like he wanted an excuse to stop before things got even more out of hand. WWE is spinning this as the most intense war games build-up in history, and they are not wrong. But they are selling you intensity when what you actually witnessed was legitimate animosity barely contained by the thinnest veneer of professionalism. These four men don't just want to beat each other at war games, they want to hurt each other. And that makes Saturday's match either the most incredible spectacle we've seen in years or a legitimate disaster waiting to happen. Final question for the comments, and this one's important: should WWE let this level of real heat play out in the ring, or is this dangerous territory that's going to end with someone legitimately injured? War Games is this Saturday. Based on what we saw Monday night, I genuinely don't know if all four of these men are making it out of that cage without needing actual medical attention. And part of me wonders if that's exactly what WWE is counting on. Because in an era where everything is so carefully scripted and choreographed, real danger sells. Real animosity creates moments people can't stop talking about.